Hello and welcome to the Escape Podcast, your source for all good things in the universe of movies. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Josh. Join us as we explore the vast reaches of science fiction, fantasy, action-adventure, and beyond. Nailed it.
Alright, today's a special episode brought to you today by Taco Bell.
Yes. Enjoy Taco Bell for delicious burritos, quesadillas, enchiladas, and more.
It is the franchise of the future.
Yes.
Now, if Taco Bell hears this, it'd be great to get some kickback. Today's episode is Demolition Man, and in honor of Demolition Man, I brought some Taco Bell with me.
Yeah. Literally.
Josh petting his Taco Bell. We're gonna do a quick review on these few items that we got here, and if you don't know why we're talking about Taco Bell, well, go watch the movie.
And another thing I must say kind of makes this episode special is it's been 10 episodes since we've done a One Roof episode. We are literally right now sitting next to each other, and we haven't done that since Superman.
Yeah, so expect a lot of mistakes and giggling.
Yeah.
Tickling? Yes, tickling. Okay, so, Josh, you said you don't care that much for Taco Bell.
I hate Taco Bell, but I used to work for Taco Bell. Isn't that ironic?
Really? So did I.
How about that? I worked for the one here in, that wasn't Woodhaven before they tore it down, though. They tore it down, they rebuilt it, but nicer and newer. I worked for it when
I didn't care much for it, working there.
You worked at the same one?
Well, I worked at one in Riverview.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could tell you some horror stories. Not about, the employees doing, dirty stuff, but, just how dirty the building was. That's why they tore it down.
That's how the one in Riverview was, too. They tore that one down and redid it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've worked in 4 different restaurants, and that was, near the bottom for me. Mm. Anyway, I brought today with me.
What is that?
This is a chicken quesadilla.
Chicken quesadilla, and what is this here?
That is a beefy Frito burrito. Take a piece of quesadilla, Josh.
I've never had this. I don't know what to expect. I really don't.
I'm glad you've never had it before.
Is there cheese in this?
Yes.
My other arch nemesis.
You don't like cheese?
But I'm willing to
You are an alien.
I'm willing to do it for the...
Take a bite. Bite it. Now, I should inform everybody that this Taco Bell has been sitting around for about an hour and 15 minutes.
Actually, not as bad as I expected if it didn't have cheese on it.
You'd like it better without the cheese?
Yeah.
We can edit some of this, but...
All
Getting
right.
photos. All right, so tell me about the quesadilla. What are you tasting in there?
I don't know. I taste some kind of sauce. What kind of sauce is this?
That is quesadilla sauce. I think that's literally what it's called.
Okay.
When did you work at Taco Bell?
Sometime 2001. Because that was the last job I had before I went to...
It seems like they would have had these at that point.
I'm sure I never. I should eat it.
You never made one?
I was... Okay. Yeah, they didn't have me make food because they assumed I knew how to make this stuff because everybody loves Taco Bell. Mm-hmm. And then they would have me try to tell me to make something. They'd just be like, oh, make this. And I'd be like, well, what goes on it? And I was putting ridiculous stuff together. Mm-hmm. So finally, I was just the drive-thru guy.
I ended up doing that too.
We had a timer above. We only had one window in this particular one, and they're basically as soon as a car would come, a timer would start. If the car was there for over a minute, we would get points knocked off. So what we would do is we had the radios, and the A button talked to the intercom to the car, and the B button only talked to the other employees. So basically, all the employees could hear what the person was ordering, and what they would actually tell me to do was stall them, keep them at the intercom as long as possible, move up to the actual window when the timer starts. So I would, they would tell me to, repeat the order back slowly, repeat it back and get the last thing wrong, and then they would get frustrated, repeat, no, I said I want, and they would go through the whole thing, but really, they would be making it the whole time. So when they finally got to the window, it just, bam, there it is. And so I would, we had a Wendy's right next to us and a KFC on the other side. So, sometimes I would get on there and I'd be like, welcome to KFC. How may I take your... just stuff like that. And then they would come up there and they would think, oh, KFC's intercom's interfering on your thing. I was like, oh, okay. But I never ate the food.
That's funny. Actually, they had us do the same thing when I was working at the one in Riverview. And this is probably 2005, 6?
Okay.
Something. Anyway, yeah, they would get, if they started to get backed up a little bit, they would have they'd have the person's order ready, but they'd have them sit at the window forever. So one person would have a bad time. Because, they have those timers, and it gets reported back at the end of the night.
Well, my boss would, he would take the tray cover that covers the food. He would, stick out the window, pull it back in. Stick out the window, pull it back in. So it would, show a lot of quick time
to
balance it out.
Oh, wow.
And if it was really dead, I guess he would take his car, pull it forward, pull it back, pull it forward, pull it to like get a bunch of fast times to.
No.
And the incentive for the employee was, if we did incredibly well, we got free food. If we did all right, we got half off. If we did terrible, we had to pay for it.
That's weird.
All I ever ate was cinnamon twist.
Yeah, they would have us, like, they would take the hit on one of them, just, like, let them sit there forever, even though their stuff was ready, while they made everybody else's stuff. And that way, like, one bad time, and then you'd have, like, 6 good times.
Yeah.
And that's when it got super busy. So, sometimes, folks, when you're sitting in line at Taco Bell, that might be what's happening.
So, yeah, like, sometimes they would tell me to have them pull to the pole that's right before the window. But, so, the Taco Bell I worked at, the hallway, if you can call it that, it was like this little wall that you could literally put your hand on one wall and stick your hand across the other. It was that narrow. And literally that's where the back door, or the door for the, where the workers went. And then literally right across from that was the, like, men's room. Right beside that was the utility closet. And then this way was the women's room. And literally you could stand right in the middle and touch every door. That's how close they were. Well, the men's room toilet would constantly overflow. And you would have literally toilet water going into this hallway. It would be going into the women's room. And it would be where I was standing, when I would take inside orders, I'd be standing water on the other side of the counter, taking people's orders, standing in toilet water.
Why did you plug the toilet up so much is what I want to know.
I don't know. I hated Taco Bell.
Good answer.
Sabotage.
Okay, the rest of this quesadilla is yours.
Thank you.
I pass you the quesadilla.
Actually, not that bad.
Okay.
So what is this now?
Grade it, real quick.
Oh, grading food.
Yeah, go ahead.
A C.
A C? Okay. I like their quesadillas a lot. I'd give it, like, an A-.
I need no cheese on it. What is this?
That's a beefy Frito burrito. The reason that I would give the quesadilla an A- instead of an A or an A+ is because they're expensive. It's like $4 for one.
You paid $4 for this?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Just for one? Now he's eating the Frito burrito.
I am.
Which is on the dollar menu. You like that one?
Yeah, I like rice and beef.
Yeah, let's tell people what's in it. I guess Fritos, beef, cheese. Is there cheese?
I don't see it. I hope not. I'm going to feel like this should be at the end.
Well,
this is very long.
Maybe. It's not super long. Think about our news.
True.
Yeah, this one I think is just rice and beef and Fritos.
There's actual Fritos in there?
Yeah. They're a little soggy now. You can kind of see them.
Okay.
There might be some kind of sauce in there, too. So you like that one a lot better?
No, actually, this one tastes better. Minus cheese. But
Okay.
this is good, too. This is not bad.
So your opinion of Taco Bell has gone up today?
A little bit. I'm actually pleasantly surprised.
Okay. Now, I was thinking when I ordered this that I wanted to get one chicken and one beef because I thought that it was probably the beef that you didn't like.
Yeah, I wouldn't like?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I don't know, because their beef is kind of odd.
I remember the beef came in bags that we had to heat up in the hot water.
It does not look pretty either.
Yeah. It's like probably low-grade beef.
Oh, yeah. I feel like Taco Bell's quality is actually, like, for a little bit, it was dipping, and they did something different about their beef, and it just tasted really weird, so I stopped ordering it. It's not back to where it was, but it's better than when it was at its worst. Yeah, the beefy Frito burrito's good. I'll give it, like, a B.
Actually, I think it'd almost be better without the Fritos. That's not crunch.
You could probably order it that way. That'd be pretty funny to do that.
I mean, they don't have a burrito without Fritos?
I don't work there anymore, Josh.
Well, you order this crap.
You order a beefy Frito burrito with no
I'm
Frito?
saying they expected me to know how to make all this stuff just because they thought everyone likes it and orders and eats it.
All right, so we've wasted your time talking about Taco Bell. We can get into this. Do you have trivia for the movie? This is going to be one of our sloppiest episodes. Oh, the sock. We have the sock here still.
Yeah. I can't believe nobody wants this.
Well, we advertised it on the previous episode, which we actually haven't even uploaded yet.
Well, by the time they hear this one.
By the time they hear this one...
Yeah. Why doesn't anybody want this sock?
I'm sure tons of people want that sock. They just don't know it yet. So, if you know what we're talking about, there's a sock that we've autographed. It has the Skate Podcast written on it. It's got a nice hole in it. Mm-hmm. You can throw all sorts of stuff in that sock, and it'll fall right out.
Hey, it's up by the heel, so it may be all right.
You can win this sock. You could be very lucky and win the sock. All you got to do is write a review.
iTunes or YouTube?
iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic.
Yeah, why not?
That's it.
Yeah.
Super easy.
If one person would do it, because there's none there, I'm just going to say, hey, you did it, you win it.
Yeah, this is a easy contest to win, folks.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Demolition Man.
All right, so today is episode 26, and we're talking about Demolition Man from 1993, starring Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, and Sandra Bullock. It has a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was directed by Marco Brambiam. Did I say it right? I don't know how to say it.
Let me see it again.
Brambilla? Whatever. And I looked him up. The only other movie called Excess Baggage, it has like Alicia Silverstone and a few other people in it, but...
That's his only other movie?
And then there was like one other movie that has like many directors. It's almost like Twilight Zone where there's different segments, and he did one of those segments, and then it looks like everything else is TV.
Okay.
Yeah. So Wesley Snipes is a black belt, and they had to have him slow down his punches and kicks because they blurred on film because he was going so fast, they said. The movie was originally set to start in the future and just have these guys be woken up, but one of the writers said that if you don't see Kansas, Oz isn't special. So he suggested let's start it in the modern day, even though it's 3 years ahead
It's
of when
still the future, yeah.
Yeah, technically. So they did that instead. Phoenix was originally going to be played by Jackie Chan, and that didn't work out because Jackie Chan said he didn't want to do a villain because the Chinese audience wouldn't accept that because he was always a good guy.
Did you get that one off IMDb?
I did.
I'm not sure I believe that one.
You don't believe that one?
Keep going, though. I'll tell you why later.
Okay. Then there was later talk about getting Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal.
I'm not sure I believe this one either.
Okay. They said that Jean-Claude did not want to play the bad guy, and he said if they could get Steven Seagal to play the bad guy, he would play the good guy, and that Steven Seagal apparently said no. What?
Keep going. Keep going. It's trivia.
Okay. Laura Petty filmed 2 days' worth as Huxley before they decided to recast over creative differences. Do you know who she is?
No.
She was the girl in Tank Girl. She was the lead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know her.
Jack Black makes a cameo as one of the, what they call them, scrappers.
Really?
And once I knew he was there, I did see it.
There's another person in this movie that I never knew was there, even though I've seen it like 30 times on TV.
Stallone said the freezing scene was terrifying, being put in water and having to just get higher and higher and higher. I think they said it was like 5 hours worth. It was just...
Really?
Yeah, pretty bad sequence. There was a sequel planned with Jackie Chan as the villain, supposedly. And there was also talk of a prequel that would talk about Stallone's character Spartan like going after Simon. I don't know if that means it was going to be all set in the modern day or what.
Okay.
There was going to be a subplot about Spartan's daughter. In fact, the girl that was going to be her was next to Friendly toward the end. That girl, I guess, was going to be...
Wait, the other girl played who?
She was going to be Spartan's daughter. In the
she was at the end of the movie?
Yeah, but that's that. They even have him talk about like, oh, I wonder, I want to meet my daughter, but then I kind of don't. And then she was going to look him up, and he grabs her hand. Remember that?
Yeah.
She was going.
I just don't remember a girl standing around anywhere. I didn't realize that she was in the movie.
In fact, they were going to have him protect her, especially be protecting her when Simon and his thugs were like invading the sewers. The He-Man toy was used for the action figure Demolition Man, just repainted. And the body count is 72.
I thought about the body count, but I was like, it's a dumb action movie. Like, there's no way I could even count it. Yeah. Was that it?
That's all I got.
This stars Sylvester Stallone as John Spartan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, John Spartan is, like, very action man name.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, real quick, like, what would your action man name be?
My action name be? Wow, that's a little...
Just, like, off, quick, fast.
Bartholomew Johnson.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
What would your action guy name be?
Jack Kilgore. I don't know if it's just...
Jack Kilgore. Well, you had time to think about it.
I didn't even think about it. I just said it. So okay. I guess that would be my name.
Kilgore. What was the first name?
Jack.
Okay.
Okay, so Wesley Snipes is the villain in the movie. He plays Simon Phoenix. What do you think of Wesley Snipes being cast in this role?
I don't have a problem with Wesley Snipes per se, but I felt like his portrayal was kind of jokery.
That's the point I was going to bring up later.
Yeah, he's basically the Joker. He just, kind of laughs hysterically about everything. He's always joking around. It doesn't seem like he has any real reason for doing anything except for he just loves chaos.
It's not really a real fleshed out character. It's just your generic crazy bad guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, he is very Jokerish. They have a very Batman-Joker relationship in this movie. In fact, the movie actually kind of feels like a comic book movie in a lot of ways, I think.
I can see that, yeah, and I think they did do some
especially early 90s.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, like, I thought Wesley Snipes was kind of a weird one at first, a weird choice, but, with his actual martial arts background, and he had been in, like, a list of comedies before this.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, he was in about football, right?
Major League about baseball.
Yeah, but wasn't he one with Goldie Hawn or something? I thought.
Maybe.
Okay, doesn't matter.
Well, we could look that up later. Or somebody can write us in. Let us know. Your favorite Wesley Snipes movie. Go for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was around this time that he actually started to get big, and I have kind of a funny story about him and Major League.
Okay.
Major League came out in 1989. He was kind of a fresh star. He wasn't super big yet, and he played a pretty funny role in that movie. Well, Major League 2 came out a year after this, but they couldn't get Wesley Snipes to return because now he had a big head. He was a big star. He had like a string of movies. This is one of them. And that actor that I said I didn't even realize was in this was Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea when I saw him. I'm like, is that Jesse Ventura? What the heck? He doesn't have one line in the movie.
No, he doesn't.
All he does,
unless it got cut.
He kills somebody at the end of the movie, and that's it.
He kills the other villain, so to speak.
Yeah, so it was crazy to me. Like, how are you going to have Jesse Ventura in your movie and have him not say anything?
I don't know.
Anyway, so Major League 2, they got Omar Epps to replace Wesley Snipes. So Omar Epps is playing the same role, same character. And they actually turned what happened with Wesley Snipes into a little storyline in that movie. Okay. So you had this guy coming back. He was supposed to be real fast. He'd be like, he'd hit a run and, he wasn't a power hitter. He'd just run the bases. Yeah. And now he comes back and he's got a big head. He's got, a limo. He's been off doing action movies. Okay. Now he just thinks he's the guy, Yeah. And he's been beefing up. He's trying to hit home runs and stuff. And they take a look at one of the action movies he made, and it's Omar Epps and Jesse Ventura. In this preview for the movie, it's like Black Thunder and White Lightning, something like that, right? Yeah. And it is the worst looking action movie anybody's seen. I will show you that clip from the movie. It's hilarious. I think it's pretty funny that they kind of turned Wesley Snipes' real life story with that movie into something. Yeah. So just a little background there. That came out in 94. This was released in 1993. Correct. You said in the trivia that it's actually the future that it started off in. They wanted to start off further in the future? Yeah, they wanted to have it be 2032 and have them have these guys all of a sudden just get woken up. You don't know about their past, but as it comes So what's funny is the movie comes out in 93.
Set in 96.
It starts off in the distant future of 1996, yes. Which I think is kind of funny. It almost looked... I wonder if they just said it was 1996 afterwards. Like, well... I wonder if it was going to be further in the future, because there's certain things, it seems kind of futuristic for 1996 already. The, Los Angeles or wherever they are, the Hollywood sign is on fire. Yeah. Like, everything is chaos. Yeah. Burning, exploded. So it seems like that should be a little further off in the future.
I actually had something written down about that, too. I was thinking, at one hand, I thought, they should have said it further in the future, but then in a way I think no, because if it's not grounded in what was contemporary at the time, you can't as much relate to how much a fish out of water these guys are later.
That's true.
If you're already the fish out of water watching these guys, you know what I mean?
Also, I think that the cryonics, or whatever it is, would be pretty advanced for 1996, being able to freeze people like that.
Yeah, that was the point where even in 96, the whole... It shifted so weird, because the whole hallway, the way they have him wearing that, almost... It looked like saran wrap that, it was plastic clothing, and just the way he was being put in this cryogenic thing, it already seemed like he was in the future at that point. I don't know, just the way they set it up just doesn't look right. It doesn't fit with the fact that it's supposed to be still 96,
So, this movie is very much, I feel like, almost a spoof of action movies from the 80s already. Okay. Throughout the 80s and early 90s, you just had... By the time the early 90s came, action movies had gotten so ridiculous and, so over the top that they became almost a joke. And then you ended up getting things like Last Action Hero, which kind of, pokes at that a little bit. Arnold started doing more comedic roles at this point. Yeah. This one, I would classify it as an action comedy, sci-fi action comedy. There's a little more comedy in it than a normal action film.
Yeah, I guess.
And, I feel like it's aware of how ridiculous action movies have become, and it uses that to its advantage.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever trying to take itself too seriously.
At the very beginning, Stallone shows up in his tight shirt, and he's wearing a beret. I don't know, do cops wear berets?
The cool ones do.
I guess. So that kind of reminded me of Street Fighter, because they had Guile wearing that beret the whole time. Anyway, he jumps out of the helicopter. He's shooting guys on the way down. He's just hanging there like a piñata. And even though he's surrounded by bad guys, nobody can hit him.
Yeah. Did you ever see Cobra? Which is another
I have not
Stallone
seen
movie?
it. I've seen the knife from Cobra.
Okay, so like at the very beginning of Cobra, there's a guy that's holding people hostage inside of a grocery store. And basically the cops are all like surrounded the outside. No one can go in because, he might kill a hostage. And finally the captain's like, oh, we just can't do this. All right, call the Cobra. And like basically he's like a cop, but he's like so cool. He like doesn't drive a police car, doesn't wear a uniform. He like shows up, and I think they show like his boot get out. He's got like like slow pan up this the cool guy. It just doesn't look like a cop, but I thought it was funny that even other cops call him the Cobra. Like he's this well,
now he's the Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Funny story about that knife. In high school, there was a girl that I really liked, and I'd go hang out with her all the time. Her dad had a huge collection of knives, and he had them just sitting on the wall. Mm-hmm. And I guess something he would do. He never did it with me because I was a good guy, and I never officially dated his daughter. But whenever she would bring a new boyfriend home, he would have that kid pick out a wall or a knife on the wall. He's like, "All right, if you hurt my daughter, that's what I'm going to kill you with."
Really?
And one of the knives he had was the one from Cobra, and that was like his favorite one.
Okay. So when Stallone finally gets to Snipes, and by that point Snipes has, punctured all the barrels with gasoline, how is it that Stallone doesn't smell the gasoline?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Also, it's the fumes that are flammable. It's not like the liquid itself. And he's got that blowtorch like sitting right over the gasoline. Like that would have done it right there.
Plus he had a cigarette. Yeah. So I mean, here's another thing I want to know. Why does he even save Phoenix from the burning building? I think I would just let him go. Like when he's running out after.
Well, then he wouldn't be our hero, and there'd be no movie.
Yes,
yeah, I understand what you're saying, though.
But real talk, I would just let him go.
Yeah.
And then another thing I could say, or no, you need to say one.
No, go ahead.
So I know that Spartan has the reputation as the Demolition Man, but why did the captain think he would blow up the building with hostages? And if he was so convinced that the hostages were in there, yet he blamed him for, you know what I mean? Like, isn't that kind of weird? I mean, Spartan did.
Well, he was arguing that they weren't in there.
Spartan was, but the captain was saying that you did it because you have the reputation as the Demolition Man. But what I'm getting at is, did the captain really think that he would blow the place up with hostages in there? You know what I'm saying?
I think that he thought that he didn't check thoroughly enough. Like, he just went ahead to go get the guy. So that's what he was mad about. So he didn't check to see if the hostages were there. In the end, it turns out that the hostages were already dead.
And he says that he did a thermal scan or something, right? Mm-hmm. That he didn't see any, but I'm saying... what I'm getting at is, I understand he has a reputation, but I just find it funny that his captain thinks that he would essentially murder innocents.
Well, I guess his captain may have been kind of a jerk. I think it was kind of funny the police chief in the future was kind of a jerk as well. Like, as soon as they thought him out, like, it just seemed weird. Like, the police chief was oddly cruel to Stallone, considering that, like, the society had become one of peace, loving, and understanding.
Maybe that's because in his mind, Stallone represented everything they worked so hard to eradicate.
I suppose. He just seems such a jerk, though. Yeah. All the police chiefs in every movie is like that, it seems like.
Yeah.
It also seems like an investigation of the incident may have revealed that they were already dead by the time there's an explosion, but...
Is that what they said? That they were
dead? Towards the end of the movie, Wesley Snipes said the hostages were already dead when you got there. That's why the scan didn't pick anybody up.
Oh, I guess I missed that then.
Yeah, so I guess maybe the explosion just blew everybody into bits anyway or something. Like, there would be no way to tell. But, they just kind of skip from that and then go to the freezing process. I thought the freezing process looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
The special effects for the time were decent. So you said that was water in the trivia?
I think they were actually using water for the actual filming. I don't know.
It almost looked like a gel that they were pouring in there, but I guess that could have been my imagination. The future is almost realistic in a way. Parts of it, anyway.
With the whole privacy debate now?
No, well, that's relevant to today's,
that's
world, but
kind of struck me.
Like the future in certain ways seemed kind of realistic. Like there were self-driving cars, which are kind of around the corner, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever really get them, but they're working on it.
Video calls.
Yeah, video calls
everywhere.
Touch screens. One guy had basically a tablet that he was using.
Yep. GPS. That didn't exist really in 93.
There was, the cars looked futuristic without looking too silly, because sometimes they'll go way overboard, but they didn't look that far off from what we were already driving.
Virtual reality.
Voice commanded. Like, the cars had voice commands.
Voice activation things. Another thing I thought was kind of interesting, music stations dedicated to one type of genre.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't exist in 93. You can watch a network dedicated to crime genres or whatever, it's just, they didn't have that kind of stuff back then.
Also, there is like a cashless society. They didn't use actual cash for anything, and it was all based on credits that you had, and it was all electronic. They had tracking chips.
Yeah.
This one's kind of funny. Wesley Snipes couldn't find a Radio Shack.
I wrote something down about that. Yeah. I actually have something there. Where is a Radio Shack?
I think there's
apparently like 70 some in the country.
I think there's one in the mall.
Our mall? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There was.
I don't know if it's still there, but there was one in the mall.
There was one in Woodhaven. Not that long
I think
ago.
there's one around here somewhere. When I went there, it was empty.
They're way overpriced.
They had tumbleweeds.
Yeah, that's funny that we both thought about that.
They had cyber sex. It was kind of early to come up with that concept, too.
Yeah.
They almost had an HD TV.
They just had it the wrong way.
Yeah, they had it. It was tall instead of wide.
Yeah, I mean, but I've seen it. It's funny, at the mall, I've seen certain TVs they're using as just billboards, and they've placed them that way.
Yeah, it was kind of more similar to that, but I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. Just like, they had a viewing screen that was not a box.
Yeah.
And the next generation, was the view screen wide?
It was a wider screen, yeah.
And then they had other things that were really silly for the future, like the graffiti. Like, the robot would come up and do the graffiti, and then, like, the wall basically had anti-graffiti on it, where it would erase it all somehow.
Yeah.
And the little periscope.
Like the Magnadoodle.
yeah. One of those old
just slide the Magnadoodle over.
And then, like, I assume it was, like, the people living underground, Dennis Leary and his group, that had a periscope that they kept popping up. Mm-hmm. Like, that was super silly, too.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, though, like, the way they talked in the future, like, I don't know, like, they used everyone's first and last name. And,
what was mine? Like, Mike, awesome. I can't remember, but Jack...
John Spartan, like everything, John Spartan. Like,
yeah.
And greetings and salutations. And,
it seemed like, because the trend is to shorten words, and they were ending up doing things the long way when they were talking. Although, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, compared to, like, 100 years ago, like, what would the slang back then sound like today? Even, like, you can go back to, like, the 30s and 40s and stuff. Just words meant different things, and, we'd be able to understand each other, but certain things would sound odd.
Right. I was surprised how little Rob Schneider was actually in this movie. I thought he was in it a lot more. And I know that's probably because I'm thinking of Judge Dredd. But I still thought he was in the movie more, and he actually isn't. What's
funny is this movie has something in common with every other Rob Schneider movie I've seen, where his appearance, actually, I wish wasn't even there.
Oh, you don't like Rob Schneider?
I don't know, not really.
I don't.
I assumed he was a police dispatcher by day and a gigolo by night.
Oh, okay.
No, I never really found him too funny. What's funny is, like, I'll see some of his Twitter posts or something, and I'll be like, that's funny. I like that. But, like, I don't like his movies. I don't like him almost ever. There's very few things where I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Was it me or was Snipes overacting? Like, I'm sure that's what they told him to do.
Yeah, I think that was part of the theme of the movie, was overdoing everything. But, yeah, there are times where he just seems so silly.
Just very over the top.
Yeah. Like we said earlier, like, he seemed almost directionlessly crazy.
Yeah.
It's just like, act crazy. How do crazy people act? Oh, they laugh.
Yeah, that Joker type feel that he has.
Yeah, it's just he didn't have a lot of fleshed out background. He's just generic cookie cutter madman. Yeah. The clothing was a little bit ridiculous. It kind of reminded me of Star Trek in a way, because you'd see that type of clothing in a lot of when they go down on planets.
Reading where they said they were inspired a lot by Japanese styles. I could see that.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of roby type of
long
garments
stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the implant tells the police your life status and your location, I guess. Because remember
they did
the first two guards that he killed, it already knew that they were dead. It was monitoring the warden's status, and then when he died, granted they had the camera on him at that point too, but like it knew like what was punctured, like a punctured lung and a severed this and a whatever.
Yeah, that's some pretty futuristic technology.
I'm assuming
there.
it was the thing in the hand that was also tracking
Probably.
the location. But it's just interesting concepts.
I heard that this movie was actually there was a plagiarism. Did you read that?
Yes, from a 1985 novel.
Yeah, it was something a European science fiction. I guess somebody claims that after basically the Iron Curtain fell, a lot of European writers got plagiarized. I don't know if that's true or not. The story did sound a little bit similar, how they got frozen, went to the future, and they were enemies, and they had to resume their fight in this more peaceful land. I think it was called Brave New Future, Brave New World, something like that. Yeah. You know what? This movie, actually, there's a lot of it that reminds me of Futurama, too. And I'm sure Futurama based some of their stuff on this movie. Yeah. Because Matt Groening and the team behind it, like, they did a lot of science fiction research. You know, Fry getting frozen, going into the future, kind of being like the fish out of water. The underground area, the city, old city underneath the new city.
Yeah, old New York or whatever.
Yeah, with the people living under there.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't think about that.
Also, they kept referring to Stallone as a caveman throughout the movie. Yeah. And I do remember specifically there was an episode of Futurama where Fry and Leela get stuck in like a tar pit. And when they finally get out, like a caveman skeleton comes up and they're like, "Oh, Sylvester Stallone is here."
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that was because of this movie or what, but that was pretty funny. Were you checking out Sandra Bullock's office at all?
It's cluttered with 90s.
Yeah, she had an obsession with the past, which is our present, was our present.
Yeah.
I was trying to see if, like, how many Easter eggs there might be in there, or, like, what kind of stuff. There wasn't a lot, though.
No, obviously there's a Lethal Weapon 3 poster. Which
that seems so odd, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why that one. Speaking of, like, Easter eggs, obviously Simon says, let me borrow this Rambo, like, from the...
yeah, I noticed that, too.
That was kind of cool or whatever, no deal.
Yeah, that was a nice little Easter egg. What was the password to the cuffs?
Teddy bear. That's the one thing, for some reason, I saw this, when I first saw this, I was at a friend's house, like, probably a year after it came out, because I remember at the time, when I first saw the movie, I was like, what, 96? Like, so I'm guessing it might have been 94 or something when I saw this. I remember, for some reason, that's what stuck out to me. Teddy bear as being the passcode to...
Now, did you ever use that as a password for anything?
I thought about it, but no.
Yeah, people will do that a lot. It's really easy. If anybody out there is using a Star Wars related password or using their name or God or their pet's name, you should probably not do that anymore. Code 187. What is that?
Murder, death, kill.
Murder, death, kill. So when the warden died, he got murder, death, killed. I made sure to note when the warden died, the date. It was August 4th, 2032. So that's not really...
It's only 15 years.
I guess that's a long time for back then, but, it's not too far around the corner for us now.
Yeah. That would have been, 30-something years? Wait, no. I can't think.
So it came out in 93. It was set in the distant future of 1996.
Okay.
To start.
So it was 24 years in the future, I think? From we'll just say 96, it was 24 years, right?
It'd be almost 30 years, or 40 years, right?
Horrible.
It'd be, 38 years.
Hold on, 20 what? 32?
Yeah. This came out in 93.
Oh, I can't even. 2032, 1990, let's just say 6. What the? Yeah. Oh my goodness. 2000, 36 years.
Okay.
What did I say?
We said something like that.
Okay. I don't know how that out.
Alright, so yeah, when this movie came out, it was like 38 years in the future.
Right. I think that's only, 15 years now?
Yeah, 15 years now.
As we record this, 2017.
Well, that doesn't sound right. It's not 15 years. It's like 20-something years since the movie came out.
Hold on.
Josh.
Hold on.
It's been 24 years. Shut
up. 15 years.
No.
Wait. 2032, right? Take away...
1993.
No, I'm talking about from us. 15 years.
Okay, it's 15 years away from us now, that future.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, now.
The movie is 27 years old.
36 years from 96 when it was supposed to be.
We're going to edit all of this out.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so anyway, the future isn't too far from now. And it got me thinking, like, it seems like they either push the future off way too far. Well, actually, no, never that happens. It always seems like if there's a problem with it being...
Well, there's a problem
it's too close.
With the math. There's certain... Back to the Future had this issue. Basically, for certain things to work, the math has to be a certain thing. Okay. For instance, in the original Back to the Future, Marty's 17 in 1985. He needs to go back to the same time period in which his parents are 17. So by the math, it has to be 1955. Okay? Right? You know
well, I was talking about a different issue, but go ahead.
Well, basically what I'm getting at for this is he had to be, if they put him too far in the future, they could, I mean, obviously they cut it, but they were going to have that subplot where his daughter would be there. If it was so far ahead, they couldn't even have that.
That would be the only reason for it to be not too far, but it just seems like...
guy, the pilot guy that he knew still in the future, he had to still be alive. So if they push it too far ahead by math, unless they say, well, we've found new medical breakthroughs
it seems
make
like,
people live longer or whatever.
It would have worked out better, since they didn't use the daughter thing anyway.
Yeah.
That doesn't
But then they
change.
had to have that guy.
But that guy, maybe he could have been the son of one of his partners or something.
Well, yeah, but again,
and push it out just a little bit further.
But my thing is, it's a sci-fi movie. You can you come up with all this ridiculous stuff anyway. Why not just say we found new medications, new technology?
Well, the thing for me is like how
life.
Society has changed so much, and like these people are adults in this movie.
Yeah.
So there was so
the
much
Warden
change.
was born in '67, and like. You know, so obviously he's lived most of his life the way we, you know.
Yeah, there's so much change between the time he was frozen and the time he was unfrozen, and it wasn't that long of a period of time.
Right.
And nobody around him remembered anything.
Right, because they all act like you would think that everyone that should be around him should be people that were born after the big change. So
Example, nobody knew anything about toilet paper.
I mean, it's like part of me can get it in a way. Like, I could look at something that I have like a tape cassette and say like, you know, yeah, I grew up using tapes, but like, man, it's been a while since I used one. Like, oh man, this is so hard to get used to. I can partially let it slide or get it.
You are an incredibly sensitive man who inspires joy feelings in all those around him. Did you know that?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Since I brought it up anyway, how do the seashells work? I know you showed me that picture.
Well, if we want to get a little bit crude here, apparently Stallone, and this is not my analogy here, Stallone came up with a solution where you would use two of the seashells. Like,
so hold on, wait a second. You showed me this picture.
Yes.
That picture was based on something Stallone said?
Yes, in an interview on something. Yeah, that's all Stallone inspired. Somebody drew up that graphic.
Okay, so it's just him having fun with it, but this is the closest we have to an official explanation.
Yeah, this is never actually said in the movie. They never explain it.
Go for it.
Okay. So I guess you take two of the seashells and make almost like tweezers. And you literally break or pull it off. And then the third seashell scoops away the leftover. That was Stallone's explanation. Again, not that clever or creative. But, okay, here's what I want to know. Do you discard the seashells? Do they put new ones? Because I don't want to use those seashells after you did.
I would imagine it'd be like a bidet that would clean the seashells. Like, you set them in their little pod.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is not the explanation. Like, I don't think there is an explanation.
Yeah.
I think it was meant just to be a running gag.
Well, I guess this could have been in trivia. They said one of the writers, I guess there were many writers on this, but one of the writers, he was trying to come up with something funny about how they might use the bathroom in the future. So he said he called a friend and said, like, what's in the bathroom right now? And the guy said, he looked around and he said, well, there's some decorative seashells. And the other guy said, great, I'll come up with something for that.
Wow, okay. Did you notice that when Wesley Snipes was doing, like, action scenes...
That the worst music ever started playing?
Yeah, it was accented by record scratching.
It was terrible. Like, that almost, like, took you out of it. Because, like, I noticed that, a few times, like, when he starts, like, he hits that guy with the anti-graffiti thing, and then he decides to start, like, it was just the worst, like, background music ever.
Yeah, and it's so weird. It's like they were doing, like, as he was doing his moves, but then it would stop when he would stop.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was so weird. I don't know whose call that was, but that was not the right one.
Yeah.
They should have just left it normal. Like, the sound effects were already ridiculous anyway. They had their Hollywood meat slammers going.
I feel like at one point when he threw somebody, you actually hear, woo! Like,
yeah.
Like, it was, like, really...
Well, I think that was part of the movie kind of making fun of itself, though.
But I didn't understand, how is he stronger? I could understand, okay, they put little things on their
Maybe
heads.
just, like, they did something where it conditioned his muscles.
I guess, but, like, they put things on their heads so that they could, like, give them a new skill. They called it the rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just... And his was... Actually, that is something I wanted to bring up. I guess I can bring it up now. So the mayor had Phoenix basically programmed with all this kind of intel and knowledge about things that didn't exist yet. Like, how did he know teddy bear and how to hack a computer that hadn't even been invented yet in 93, or, you know, just all this stuff. Like, how did he know how to do
Well,
stuff?
he didn't even know.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, how could this guy, the mayor, what was his name?
Cocteau.
How could he say, hey, one of these days I might have a foe that I need another guy to kill. So I pick this guy right here, and I want you to start putting in his... I don't even know if I'm going to be mayor yet in that day. But just in case I become a mayor, I want you to start programming this guy.
Well, he was also the head of that company, right?
I don't know. Was he?
I think he was. He was like the CEO or whatever, or the founder of that company. So he could do whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. So I think...
I guess they could do it super quick when they thawed him out, but I was...
Well, I think what happened was...
I don't know. I just thought it was funny that... Because I took it as, like, stuff was being programmed in his brain before he... Like,
I assumed that the programming went on while he was still frozen.
Yes.
And that it all happened rather in a quick and secretive manner once Cocteau realized that he had a problem that he needed to get taken care of.
So
this was a very...
quick, like, basically, like, 10 minutes before I'm going to unfreeze him, start shooting all this
maybe like a month.
Okay.
Like, he starts slowly uploading stuff into his brain somehow.
I could buy that. But I was thinking that they were saying, like, this, for the however many years they were frozen, information was being fed into his brain. I was like thinking again, this guy's not even mayor yet, doesn't know what he's going to be. This the friendly guy isn't even his problem yet. So, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't think he even came up with the plan until he realized that he had a problem that he couldn't deal with.
I understand.
You know, speaking of the bad guy, you know, I wish they had left it a little more subtle. Left it a little bit more of a mystery as to his role in the movie. Like, don't give us... He obviously came off as the cult leader, evil politician type dude, right?
Yeah.
And, like, just right from the beginning, you knew he was a bad guy. And then they revealed it, like, in one of his earlier scenes, which was actually halfway through the movie, that, you know, he was up to no good. I wish they had kind of, like, left that till later. Speaking of the length of the movie, I didn't realize that it was as long as it was. It was nearly 2 hours.
I was going to say, it wasn't like an hour and 50 minutes?
Yeah, it's like an hour and 58 minutes.
Oh wow. Was it? I didn't realize it was that much longer.
2 hours seems like a long time. It doesn't feel like it, though, when you're watching it, because it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that it was that long.
So they constantly talk about, what was the name of the new city? San Andreas? Or, not San Andreas, San Angeles?
Sure.
It was like Los Angeles. And
yeah, it's a combination of things.
So, but they never talk about what's the whole state like, what's the whole country like, what's the whole world
like.
No,
and like everything was based around that guy, and that guy was just in that city.
And he just wanted to basically be in control.
Yeah, I've wondered that too. Is like the whole world like that?
What's the world like? Well, at least our country.
We know who the president is,
or was.
Yeah.
It's not like he was.
He must have been dead at that point, but Arnold.
Well, okay. To jump back about Friendly, his enemy. Why would it be necessary to unfollow this psychopath? Why not?
It wouldn't. It was the most convoluted plan.
Yeah, because, okay, he knows the guy's raiding food.
Mm-hmm.
Why not set up a food truck and have it be poisoned or something?
Like dump a bunch of gas down into the sewers. Who cares, right?
Yeah, but yeah, it was this ridiculous plot to do. It
was like that thing where, like, oh, I have a fly in the house and I need to buy a frog. Well, now I have a frog in the house. I need to get whatever eats frogs.
Yeah.
It's a squirrel. And a frog eating squirrel.
Yes.
And then you need to get a cat. And then you need to get a dog. And it just keeps going.
But what I did find kind of funny, you said, Futurama, which I could see that. I also kind of thought Austin Powers.
I did think Austin Powers as well.
It's just kind of funny. I remember when I first saw that, I was just... I didn't know much about 60s culture, but...
What's funny is I heard people quoting it and going on about it before I ever even heard of it.
Mm.
I didn't know what it was. It wasn't until it came out on video that I finally saw it, and I loved it, because by that point I was already a James Bond fan.
Mm.
And not only is it a genuinely funny movie, like, there's so many references to not just James Bond, but just like the 60s spy culture and 60s culture in general. And that first one is a real classic, I think, of comedy. And it's good stuff. But back to Demolition Man. Otho is in the movie.
Was that Assistant Bob? Wait, who were we talking about?
Otho.
Who was that?
Assistant Bob.
Okay.
Otho was his name in Beetlejuice.
Oh, I see.
Which I only recognize him from a few things, and that's one of them.
Well, it kind of bothered me at the end. Like, he didn't get in trouble. He was working with the mayor, who was up to deeds. He was helping out Simon, or Phoenix. Yeah, well, basically he never got any kind of trouble for basically helping both these people murder people or try to murder people or
right.
any, like basically he helped resurrect these criminals that were going out and pillaging. And
he was just like a total suck up and nobody cared about him.
Yeah, he didn't get any trouble for that.
You know what I thought was really funny? He took the time and the preparation to program Wesley Snipes to not kill him. Like, he made it a point.
Why not just obey his every word to the letter?
Well, why didn't he, like, it seems like once Wesley Snipes laid down, like, an ultimatum for him, he didn't bother putting that into all the other criminals' heads that he released.
Yeah.
That seems like a big oversight.
Yeah, that was stupid of him to allow, like, I need a few men, 6 or 7 or whatever, like, why would you allow him to have more?
Why would he need more than just one Jesse the Body Ventura?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he, if this were real, you wouldn't need to bring up any more of them.
No, you wouldn't need a whole gang. And, like, they're all wearing, like, armor made out of, like, tires and stuff. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
He obviously was all about control. He kind of had a control to an extent on him. And now you're going to give him, 7 more guys.
Uh-huh.
That was just...
Yeah, it seems...
The worst thought-out plan. For how did this guy get control of the whole city?
There are points of this movie where you feel like you can see how, had it been taken in a more serious direction, it could have maybe been a really good sci-fi movie. And then there's other parts where, like, you appreciate, like, just the comedic nature of it and how silly it is and how self-aware it is that it's, just a silly action movie.
Well, we kind of briefly touched on it, like, nowadays, with, what's it called? Net
neutrality?
Yes. With that going on now, with the whole idea of, like, having no control of yourself, no free will. Well,
yeah, there's a lot of stuff relevant to today's world. It's the whole Big Brother thing, like 1984. You go to New York City and they outlaw certain sizes of soda.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can't get a large soda anymore. You have to get like a 20 ounce or something like that.
Where are you from that you're calling it soda?
I'm saying soda because I don't know where our listeners are from. Here in Michigan, we call soda pop.
Pop. Not soda pop.
Not soda pop, just pop.
Pop.
So
that's what I'm saying. Like, wait, where did you just come from?
You can't get a large pop. So, yeah, there's people out there that do want to outlaw salt, and they want to,
was it
red
salt,
meat,
caffeine, red meat?
I had a list,
obviously tobacco, alcohol, drugs. What else? Then there was a whole thing about how they can't have kids unless it's like authorized and gone through like the proper measures. Things that are high cholesterol and
anything not good for you is illegal in this culture. And it's alcohol, smoking, caffeine, contact sports, which that's another thing people are trying to like really bust down on football now too. This film actually kind of predicted some stuff. Red meat, actually they just say meat in general. Bad language. It's this very anti Big Brother type of movie. And I think there's a point to that. Like, just let us be as long as we're obeying the laws. And
as long as no one's killing somebody.
The government's there to protect us, and that's about it. You know, it doesn't need to, tell us how to live.
Yeah.
Not to get too political or anything, but that's the point of the movie anyway. Where were we? That was pretty much where we were. So,
I have something to say.
Yeah.
So, how bad is the music of today that in the future they would rather listen to vintage commercial jingles?
Yeah, I was actually about to mention that one. The oldies radio station that they've listened to, they turn on the oldies, and it's not even oldies, it's just commercials, it's jingles.
Yeah.
Old ads. And it's pretty funny that there's another thing that didn't really make sense for how far along in the future they were. They weren't that far along. Like, what, there's no music now?
Well, I just think it's funny because I think modern music, for the most part, there's probably only a few, but like most modern music, I think is just terrible.
I agree. And, it's funny, like...
that's what I was mostly getting at, is most stuff I listen to is a lot of 80s and 90s and like the early, like 2000 to 2009-ish. Once you get 10 and beyond, it's very, very hit or miss, mostly miss for me.
At work, they play a lot of like Pandora, and a lot of it's that older music, like from the 90s, when we were in high school and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, because, some songs would come on and I was like, I remember this song, I never really cared for it, but I tolerate it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why did I used to hate this and now I don't really care? It's gotten to the point where music is so bad now that even the stuff that I didn't like before is good.
Oh, I could totally feel you on that. Yeah, like when I was growing up, like the alternative rock stuff. And it's like now I can totally be okay with like certain types of pop
even
stuff
before, like, each
considered.
decade kind of had its own thing.
Yeah.
That it would introduce in the music world. And, like, since, like, 2000, whatever, early 2000s, nothing really new has been added to music, and it's just become less and less talent-based and more like, hey, I got a computer that can click up a cool beat.
Right, yeah, there's not as much guitar-driven music anymore either.
Mm-mm. It's not as creative as it was, and just,
But yeah, I just thought that was funny that basically if it's so bad, they're listening to commercial jingles, and that's their music. Oh, this is the number one hit, of the week,
Mm-hmm.
Some hot dog jingle.
So we mentioned that they reveal that, the mayor's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that they do is they have Stallone go back and look at the security footage of when Wesley Snipes meets him.
Mm-hmm.
And Wesley Snipes can't kill him, and he's sitting there talking to him. There is this one thing that they do in TV shows and movies all the time that just drives me nuts. And I understand it's probably for, time reasons. You don't need to, I don't know. He pulls up the security footage, and the cameras are following him around, which is a little bit annoying, but I can understand a camera might move and follow motion, right? So
that changes angles?
Yeah, it keeps changing angles, and you can hear him perfectly. Like what? Like somebody already edited this for him?
Yeah, I thought that, that was one of my complaints about Star Trek 3, when they're looking at the security footage of the Enterprise, but it's, zoomed up where you see Kirk's face, then it's zoomed up to the other side where you see Spock's face.
There's a cameraman, but it's just supposed to be a security camera.
I said it back then, I was like, man, I wish they would have just almost recreated that shot from a one camera angle, a distant enough that you could buy that, okay, this was a camera on the wall close to the ceiling, pointing down, just something like that, even if it was just the remember part,
yeah.
But yeah, I hate old shows like that. It's almost like the same thing too, where you would, you would have two guys or something watching something like the news.
There's a movie that came out this year.
Yeah.
That really overdid it with exactly what I'm saying, and I'm not going to tell you what movie it was because it's a little bit of a spoiler. It's a movie that you said you're kind of interested in, but you didn't see yet. That's the only clues I'm giving you.
Okay.
But there's a movie that came out earlier this year, and it was a good movie, except for that one part really annoyed me. It didn't ruin the movie for me, but it was really annoying that they did that. It ended up being a bigger part of the movie than it needed to be, and it was really ridiculous.
Okay.
If you can guess what that movie is, let us know on Facebook or comment on YouTube. Earlier, we started the day off with some Taco Bell.
Yes.
Let's get into that.
Okay.
Taco Bell is featured in this movie.
Yes.
Because now every restaurant is a Taco Bell.
Yes.
So they, the mayor, just for saving his life, he offers to take John Spartan out to Taco Bell, which to Sylvester Stallone is weird.
Yeah.
In 1993, Taco Bell was not what it is now. I mean, it was still a big chain, but it wasn't as big as it was now. It didn't look like it does now.
Mm-hmm.
After this movie came out, because of this movie, Taco Bell's went from being brown or beige. It looked like an Adobe.
Purple?
Yeah, they changed everything to purple. It used to be yellow, red, and brown. They changed the logo. They made it look a little bit more futuristic, and it's kind of kept that same look ever since, but that's all due to this movie. And
I almost feel like I do remember that, when they started changing everything over.
We can look at, just go to Google and look up old Taco Bell, and you'll see what it used to look like before Demolition Man. And it's pretty funny that this movie had that much influence. And I almost feel like it kind of started a trend that's annoying now, but back then was really funny.
Okay.
It was blatant, obvious product placement, but to the degree that they had it in there, they turned it into part of the story.
Yeah.
And now it's just super annoying when they do that stuff. But back then, nothing like that.
Oldsmobile. The fact that the classic car wasn't Oldsmobile, when they broke up that elevator, it's into an Oldsmobile dealership,
Yeah, but I can see that kind of stuff happening before this movie, but to the degrure that they used Taco Bell in this movie, I don't think had been done before.
Okay.
Because now they're saying, not only is he going to take them to Taco Bell, and they're just mentioning it by name, and there it is, and it's super nice, classy restaurant.
Yeah.
Not only is that the way it is, but Taco Bell won the franchise wars, whatever that is, and now the only restaurants are Taco Bell's.
Kind of like Blu-ray and HD DVD, I guess.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of get more of a background on that, and I couldn't find much, but I did find a little article here from Entertainment Weekly from October 29th, 1993. They were talking about it. The name of the article is Demolition Man, starring Taco Bell. One prediction made in Demolition Man: the only restaurant chain to survive the franchise wars into the year 2030 will be Taco Bell. Isn't based on a prophetic hunch. Fact is, the Burrito Factory made it into the script of the Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes movie for lack of competition. So they're saying other chains wouldn't do a tie-in with an R-rated movie. But what happened is Taco Bell, they didn't have any problems because most of their customers were males 18 to 34, which fit the movie's audience.
Yeah.
So Taco Bell was like, it's not like they just picked Taco Bell. Taco Bell was the only one willing to do it.
Okay. See, I thought I was reading something that basically they said because of the fact that Taco Bell at the time was not considered was almost like the lower of the fast food chains. Anyway,
Well, it was.
That it was funnier to them to have what would be the lowest grade current fast
that probably
food
added
to
to
make
it.
Now it's a fancy pants,
Yeah.
high sophisticated piano in the lounge.
It's probably both of those things combined because I can see both of it. Also, somebody from at the end of this article says Karen Brown, a research director at the Washington, D.C. based Center for the Study of Commercialism, was quoted as saying, "The only way to get entertainment these days is to buy into a marketing plan. That's unfortunate." I wonder if she still watches movies. Because now, today, it's so much worse. I was just watching something about the new Ghostbusters movie.
Okay, I didn't see that one, but I know that Man of Steel was pretty bad for...
I also heard... I've heard all the Transformers movies are horrible for product placement.
Yeah, I would imagine mostly with cars, though. Right?
I've heard that the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie took product placement to a new level as well.
Krispy Kreme, I know that was a big... I didn't see
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't see it, so I don't know exactly what they're talking about.
I think it's like a Krispy Kreme is pretty relevant to the story.
Another one that comes to mind is one of the Adam Sandler movies, probably on Netflix. One of the ones made for Netflix featured Dunkin' Donuts pretty heavily, and Al Pacino making a commercial for Dunkin' Donuts.
I don't even know.
Because his name was Al Pacino, so they named a drink after him, a Dunkachino. Or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I didn't realize the deal went down like that. I think it ended up helping Taco Bell a lot, like making people more aware of it. Nowadays, there are so many chains out there. Like, any franchise war, they'd have to beat a lot of people. They're probably just talking about Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King back then. Mm-hmm. And, maybe KFC and Taco Bell.
Yeah.
There weren't...
Isn't kind of...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are either newer or they just weren't as prominent back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we started the movie off with a little ode to Taco Bell and a little review for Taco Bell. It's one of the big gags in the movie. Were there any quotes that you wrote down that stuck out in your mind?
Not offhand. Nothing that I wrote down, at least.
For me, the quote of the movie, it's one of those cheesy action one-liners, and Stallone delivers it perfectly, is, right after the scene inside of Taco Bell, he notices something's going on, he runs outside, and he's fighting what he assumes are the bad guys, which are really just people that are hungry. He runs out there, beats one of them up, and he says,
"Oh, yeah.
You're going to regret this for the rest of your life. Both seconds of it." I thought that was the funniest line.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There was another one, too, that I thought was kind of funny. Sandra Bullock, after she watches him beat everybody up, runs up and says, "You're even better than on Laserdisc."
Yeah.
Which, Laserdisc was a precursor to DVDs. Mm-hmm. The people living underground, they almost seemed like, because at this point, like, a lot of the futuristic movies, like, from the 80s especially, kind of took more of a Mad Max route, whereas, like, an apocalyptic future.
Right.
And all the people living underground seemed to portray that future.
Yeah, they did look very like that. I could see that.
Yeah, so they made a huge difference between, the wealthy, happy, subservient people living up top, and then the people who wanted their freedom lived down in the sewers, and everything was trashy. Apparently they had some good food down there, though.
So one thing I don't get is, like, again, is it just this city that's doing it? Is the whole state? Is it the whole country? Because why don't these people just get out? So I'm assuming it has to be the whole country, right?
Yeah, I always wonder that every time I watch this movie.
But again, the guy, he never says, California or whatever.
No, because they always just talk about the city.
Yeah, it's always just that city.
There is a scene later on in the movie where you can see outside of an office window. I don't know if you noticed it, but if you look out the window, like, it's a painted background, like they used to do for movies.
Yeah.
Where it's just like lush green hills, and you can see tall buildings and stuff every now and then in the background, but for the most part, just everything is green. They do mention, too, that there was a big earthquake that seemed like it destroyed California in the year 2010.
Yeah.
So I don't know if things got like rebuilt just in California or if like you're saying.
Yeah.
I did notice it was very green outside that window though. Like almost like everything was super naturey.
Yeah. One thing I want to say, so, a lot of movies where you would have anyone from the past into the future, usually they're portrayed as the, like, kind of lame and timid, whatever. And they do portray them as out of touch with, like, in regards to the changes, but they're almost like the cool guys. They're like, his way of doing things is cool, where like be lame, and you know what I'm saying, or no?
Like they were so boring in the future.
Well, like I'm just saying, like I can't think of an example right offhand, but like typically a movie like the Fish Out of Water time travel movie, like the person from the past now in the future is the dork. But here,
like Austin Powers,
kinda. But like,
no, he was a cool cat, Daddy.
Yeah, but like in this movie, it's like they're the cool guys that aren't afraid of anything and just do what they got to do. One for good, one for bad. But like, you know what I mean? Like,
I kind of understand what you're saying. Like in this movie,
obviously they're out of touch with what changes have happened with what society now considers norm versus unusual or technology. But at their core, like they're not the dorks or they're like the cool guys, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of different.
No, yeah, I kind of get it. Like if you pulled in a movie, if they had pulled somebody like out of the 50s, they'd be wearing their leather jacket and have a cigarette hanging out of their mouth and they'd be cool, even though like now today's like a lot of people that smoke get looked down on.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
but they'd still be cool even though they were sitting there smoking with their, their collar up and their leather jacket and they're just leaning against a car, doing whatever.
Yeah. I thought it was funny that Wesley Snipes was able to get into the police car and drive it. I kind of feel like that should be something, if that kind of technology existed, she got in the car, it identified her, and it adjusted her settings for her. But yeah, you would think that...
I wonder if he had, like, whatever chip they ended up giving him, he had, like, a master chip that allowed him to do everything. Well, he was hacking stuff, though, too.
He was hacking stuff, but he didn't have a chip.
You're right, he didn't have a chip.
But I was just thinking, I would almost assume that he...
Like, the car would be programmed to just allow her to drive it.
Or just police officers, at the very least.
Yeah, and I don't think they showed him hacking it either. He just kind of got in
and went.
I kind of already mentioned this, but I wrote down a note that the bad guy's office is very interesting architecturally.
Okay.
I don't know if I said that right, but I don't know if you noticed, like, it was very empty space. There was one giant window, a giant set of blinds in front of the window. It looked like the blinds you can close vertically. The fireplace was enormous. Like, you could have walked into the fireplace and not had to duck or anything. You could fit, like, a few people in there. I don't know why I'm saying you could fit people into the fireplace, but I mean, that's how big it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, just an enormous fireplace. And then there's nothing else in the office. It was a very big office.
Yeah.
And he just had a normal-sized desk sitting in the corner.
Yeah. I don't know.
Part of that kind of, maybe because Otho was in that scene, part of that, it kind of reminded me of Beetlejuice a little bit.
Okay.
Just like the weird look of it, the weird architectural style and the art. I don't know. Just Tim Burton was very visual like that.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely, you can tell when the movie's his.
Yeah, especially his earlier works. Sandra Bullock, we talked about her office earlier too, and stuff that was in it. Her apartment was also like that, where it was just filled with stuff. And after they explained the show tune jingles, the most popular radio station in town, like a lot of that made a lot more sense because it looked more like they were ads that you would see like hanging up on a garage or something,
Yeah.
Something American Pickers would want to grab.
Yeah.
I tried to look around to see if I could find like anything.
No, I don't think there is really
about.
anything significant.
There was a Pepsi sign, a neon Pepsi sign, a JFK towel. She had a gumball machine that was in the shape of a rocket.
Okay.
But most of it was like old ads. There were records. Some of the furniture was weird, like a futuristic looking weird, like this is the chair of the future. And it just looked really weird. It almost looked kind of flowery. So she asks Stallone if he wants to make love or whatever. So, that's something else that they did in this movie that was kind of funny. Did you notice what song was playing in the background?
Love Boat?
It was the theme to the Love Boat. I had never noticed that before, but I was listening carefully and I just started cracking up.
He even says it.
Does he?
Like when she says, like, I'll be right back, she puts on the song and then, like, he's like, Love Boat.
Okay. So, yeah, he's sitting there and he's smelling his breath. He seems almost like he's getting nervous, kind of. And, she comes out with the helmets. Mm-hmm. And then, the big sex scene in this movie is a cyber sex scene, kind of like virtual reality type of thing. Yeah. And, the scene looks like a nightmare straight out of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. To me, it's the most terrible thing. And, it's a pretty funny part of the movie. It kind of, it takes your expectations and messes with them a little bit. I thought that was pretty funny. I also thought him talking about it afterwards. She's like, what do you mean? Like actual physical? Like she's so freaked out by it. Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, the wild mamba, the hunka chunka.
Yeah. I was like, I've never heard it called the hunka chunka.
That's a word I want to start picking up, a phrase, hunka chunka. They kind of explained the programming of Simon Phoenix. See, maybe it was right from... See, now I'm thinking back on it. It had to have been like maybe a month or two of programming for him, but it seems like right away, or maybe as soon as they introduced that program, the rehabilitation program, they gave Stallone a knitting fascination with knitting.
Yeah.
He became a seamstress.
Okay, here's the thing. Couldn't they have reprogrammed Stallone to be a killer? To have, like...
Well, he wasn't part of the bad guy's plan.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But, okay, instead of picking the worst psychopath ever, why not pick someone that's a little more...
maybe it's...
abide by the rules, but, like, just program this that you have to kill.
Maybe it has something to do with their personality already. Like, he was already a good guy, even though he was the Demolition Man and violent. So he wouldn't go out there and just start murdering innocent people or for no reason, even though they tried to brainwash him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either. The glow rod, wouldn't you think that would cause some serious damage if you tap somebody in the head with that? And he does it twice. I was kind of thinking you should tap them, like, on the torso somewhere. He taps 2 people on the head, Sandra Bullock being one of them.
Yeah, maybe it did.
I was just like, that doesn't seem like a good thing to do.
You're right. So I do like when they get down into the sewer because, Sylvester Stallone's trying to figure out, what's going on exactly here. Why does it seem like he's after these people down there? So they go down there and check it out. Nobody's, like, really violent. Everybody's just kind of looking at them.
Yeah.
They're almost afraid.
Which I'm surprised they wouldn't be thinking, like, oh, crap, the police are, surrounding us. We got to get out of here, whatever. Like, they didn't seem that worried.
Yeah. Well, I guess, what are they going to do?
Slightly startled, but, like... You think they'd just be spreading with the wind, It's just like...
Yeah. So, to me, this is one of the funniest points in the movie, too. They come around the corner, they all stop. They're in a sewer. Oh, what is that horrible smell?
Yeah.
What is that terrible smell? 2 out of 3 police officers. Stallone is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes over to where this woman is cooking. He is so excited they've got hamburgers and beer.
Yeah.
And he gets a hamburger and a beer, and he's just really enjoying that burger. Before Sandra Bullock reminds him, like, do you see any cows around here?
How many rats does it take to make a burger?
I have
meat on the bones,
I have seen some pretty monster rats.
How do you do it?
Huh?
I said, when you make your rat burgers, how many does it take?
I'd say 2.
2? Make that as a burger?
You can't do that on television.
Okay.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I remember that show. I don't remember the segment you're talking about.
They had, like, Barf's Burgers or something like that.
Okay.
They had it seemed like he always made food out of really gross stuff.
Okay.
Google that. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. You can't do that on television, gross food. Something like that.
Okay.
And then this is where they introduced Jesse Ventura, which I was shocked. The elevator that shot up through the floor.
Yeah.
That was an elevator? Like, it didn't really seem to make a lot of sense.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
Just dramatic effect.
I do like that. Another thing that seemed kind of futuristic, because I think I've seen something similar to this, or at least talks of it, is where when Sylvester Stallone is in the cop car and it crashes, and then it fills up with all, like, that foam.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I've heard that talked in a realistic way. Like, Cars of the Future could have something like this. But, this is well after 1993. There's another line that I thought was pretty funny from Sylvester Stallone where he says, the car turned into a cannoli.
Yeah.
They go through, after Wesley Snipes gets Jesse Ventura to kill the mayor, he's like, I'm just going to release all the hostages or all these guys, and I'm going to rule this town. Let's go get an army.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about
or
that.
not hostages, the prisoners. Yeah,
but it seems like they were kind of very every man for himself. It's not like he was going to be the leader, was he?
I don't know that he was going to lead this gang. I think.
Right, but I'm just thinking like all those guys are probably in the same mode of thinking that I want to be my own man, kind of thing. Like I can't see any of them following him.
Yeah, I have a question, real quick, to interrupt the podcast.
Okay,
I am looking over in that direction. Are those CDs or are those floppy disks?
These?
Yeah,
they're coasters.
Those are coasters.
They're coasters.
Oh, they look like computer disks.
You're made to. You're supposed to be able to put pictures on them. Yeah, those are.
Okay, that's neat.
I had mini disc. I had a mini disc player. I was one of the few people that I didn't know anybody had a mini disc player.
I did too. It was called a GameCube.
Well, do you know what a mini disc is?
Well, they have one in this movie, actually.
Yeah, but it still looks different from the real.
It's
mini disc.
thick.
Well, real mini disc were. I wish if I had one, I would show you. They were small,
like that.
About that big, but they were protected in square plastic. Casing.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
You couldn't like the way you actually hold a CD.
Yeah,
you couldn't actually hold the actual disc of a mini disc
because it was inside.
And when you put it in, the little metal slid up.
They did do that in this movie. I don't know if you noticed Sandra Bullock or Stallone.
Yeah, she had it, but it looked like just a small CD.
Looked like a small CD, and then it was. Did you notice it's like extra thick?
Yeah, I guess it was a little thicker.
Kind of a good call on that too. Except for I don't think that you would ever need one to be thick. I don't think that actually does anything.
Yeah.
It was one of the ways that they predicted the future again in a way. But they already had CDs at that point, so I figured it's probably one of that hard guess.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean CDs I don't think were still super. I think tapes were still more prevalent at that time, weren't they? Even though CDs were out.
Tapes were pretty prevalent until the mid-90s.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember buying albums on...
I mean, they came out... I think CDs came out in the mid-80s or so, but like...
Yeah, but I mean...
Kind of like a VCR, if anybody knows what we're talking about, back in the day, it was super expensive.
Yeah, I mean, look at Laserdisc. Had to be way more superior, I'm guessing, than having a videotape.
Hey, something that's not expensive, if anybody's out there still listening to us, go check out CEDs. I think they're just so cool, and I bring it up to you all the time. Like, it was created, they started working on them in the 60s, which just blows my mind. They're like vinyl records, except they're shinier, and they actually had movies on them, videos. So, like, way back in the 60s, they were already working on basically discs. And there's some out there, like, you can get, like, Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and all sorts of stuff, Star Wars. Go check them out. And I just think that they'd be really cool to use as, like, artwork, hang them up on walls. CED.
I feel like you showed me that before.
I have. So anyway, the point I was going to get to earlier it was very lucky for Sylvester Stallone that Wesley Snipes left his master plan open. Yeah, that's a CED right there. They look cool, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a shiny record, and I think it is vinyl. So it's a good thing that Wesley Snipes left his master plan open on all those screens once they broke into Cocteau's office.
Did he?
Yeah, that's how they figured out what he was going to do. Oh, he's going to go unfreeze all these guys. He said something to that effect.
I do. Yeah, I guess
that's when he knocks out Sandra Bullock.
Okay.
And then you get to the big action guy fight. They do it in the cryo.
Yeah,
lab.
like the sentencing room almost. Like, 'cause that's where they would like sentence.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. We'll bring this up from time to time. A lot of good movies tend to do this, like kind of end the movie where it started.
Yeah, it mirrors the original, which I thought that was kind of cool. Like in the original or the beginning, it was like gasoline, and toward the end, was that water? It had to have been water.
Well, towards the beginning of the movie, they freeze them, and then here they are back in the room, almost getting frozen again.
Well, yeah, but I was saying like even the fact that in the beginning there was gasoline all over the floor.
Oh, well,
it was
yeah.
going to blow up,
Yeah, that was similar because the water was all over the floor,
there was
too.
water all over the place. It was like raining, essentially.
Yeah.
And then you had that like
it was a pretty
nitrogen,
brutal way to kind of kill Wesley Snipes.
I thought it was actually kind of cool that like even when he shattered him, like it looked red.
Yeah, like there's blood in there.
Yeah, I thought
it was as brutal. So Wesley Snipes gets frozen, and basically Sylvester Stallone kicks his head off, and then his head shatters everywhere.
Well, it was actually kind of a callback to the beginning of the film. He said, "I would lose my head if it wasn't attached," and Stallone says, "I'll keep that in mind."
Wow.
That was at the very, very beginning.
Josh has won the podcast.
No.
That was good. That was a good little anecdote there.
But, yeah, essentially he finishes them off that way. It was kind of cool. And I was kind of torn. When I first watched it, because I watched it twice to prepare. So the first time I thought, man, this ending fight scene's sloppy and it's generic. There's nothing special about it. It's kind of, just where it kind of falls flat for me. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it again to, try to see if anything I missed. And the second time I found it a lot more enjoyable and not as, I don't know, it was just a little more fun I had with it the second time around. What'd you think of the ending fight scene?
I thought it was fine.
Yeah. I don't know why, but for the first time it just seemed, I think the real, like, sloppy, lazy writing part is where everyone all of a sudden is just cool with each other. Like, you need to get a little dirty, you need to get a whole lot clean, and the rest we'll figure out. Like, like how everyone's just okay, like, I'm on the surface now. I don't know, it just was kind of just too quick. And like the way the other cop, Garcia, how quickly he kind of just adapted, right into the underground dweller guys. Like, I don't know, it just seeed very quick.
Yeah.
I don't know, just kind of rushed to like, oh, let's
well, would you want the movie to be 2.5 hours?
Yes. No, I don't know. I don't know. It just seemed very... You know what it reminded me of? The ending of an episode. Especially of a 80s, early 90s episode where Danny Tanner sets the kids down and, teaches them some life lesson about, you should always, whatever, share or, it just seemed very, you know what I mean? Like Family Matters or Full House or one of those old shows where Silver Spoons, I remember, like, where they had
one of those,
like that.
So by the end of the episode, everything's back to the way it was. And there's a lesson learned.
Kind of, yeah. They have this, like, okay, like, I need to be a little more like you, and you need to be a little more like me. Basically, if we could just find this common ground.
Oh, yeah, because they're talking about the people
did.
living above ground and underground. Like,
yeah,
you guys need to stop being so strict. You guys need to calm down a little bit.
Yeah. But they seem so quick to have that understanding and have that, eye to eye, I gotcha.
Yeah.
It just seemed kind of quick and sloppy.
So when this movie came out, it kind of got like not the best reviews, kind of a negative reception from critics anyway. The box office was huge, 159.1 million. That's pretty big. How
much it cost to make?
It does not say.
Okay.
Normally it does. It does not here.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, the movie's become kind of a cult classic. I remember reading that, Siskel and Ebert. Siskel hated it. Ebert kind of gave it. It's like, yeah, it was all right. I liked it. It was enough, Yeah. Have you ever gone back and looked at any of the reviews for anything?
For like Siskel and Ebert?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to me that Gene Siskel, basically hated everything that was good and only liked really weird or perverse stuff.
Yeah.
And then Roger Ebert, while I disagree with him probably about half the time, he at least was more open to, I think I even heard him talking about, like, he went to go see, I think, Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, when it came out in 1996. He said he didn't necessarily understand it. He thought it was kind of funny, and that it was a neat idea. And then he stopped while he was watching it and kind of just looked around. And he noticed that the audience was laughing. And he's like, whatever I think of this movie, it was set out to make people laugh. And that's what it was doing. Mm-hmm. So, it was decent in that regard. Yeah. So he kind of understood, I think, a little bit, like, for audiences, is this going to work or not?
Yeah, I mean, this movie is not really, I think a little bit, I don't know if it was accidental or just with what's happening in modern day, some things kind of become relevant and maybe a little thought-provoking. I don't know if they were going for that at the time, but all in all, it's not trying to take itself too seriously.
Well, based on a lot of the stuff we've mentioned, I think that this movie is very still fresh. Like, it holds up very well.
Yeah, I think, what would I say, 67 it holds?
Just as far as, like, can it connect with audiences today?
Oh.
And there's so many issues even now, today, that, like, this film is still relevant for, like, people trying to take away your salt. Stuff like that, Are we going to allow Big Brother to control our lives?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if they were necessarily going for that or just the way things have changed so much in these recent years that it becomes more relevant even it was.
It seems like it's more relevant now than it was before because people are kind of freaking out about stuff a little more than they were back then. Or at least, when I was a child, maybe I didn't notice it as much, but it certainly seems like people are way more on edge than they were before. Yeah. Do you think... Well, let's get your score first. Do you have a score for this movie? Or was there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, that's pretty much all my points I wanted to say. I mean, do you have something
No, I'm going to go somewhere.
I mean, again, it's a fun movie. Is it a great movie? No. But it's a fun movie. I had fun watching it. I wasn't expecting, incredible, it's not Die Hard. Like, Die Hard is a great action movie to me.
That's another one that has some comedic moments in it.
Yes.
Most movies do.
Yeah.
Otherwise it'd be downers, Yeah. But, you have to have that break in tension or the break in the drama to kind of allow people to reset and start absorbing more.
Yeah, I mean...
But this one is a little more over the top than that.
Yes, it is. And it does have a sci-fi element to it, which kind of you can somewhat give it a pass on some of these ridiculous things. But
I almost feel like some of it was ridiculous, like on purpose, though, just as a joke.
Yeah.
So what would your score be?
Maybe a C+.
Okay.
I had fun with it. Wasn't fantastic, but it was fun. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, this may be boring to some people, but I also was going to give it a C+.
We're so in sync.
Yeah.
It's like there's
little things.
With these little...
There's little things like the daughter. He mentions the daughter a few times, but then we never really get that payoff. That would have been nice.
That would have been added some weight to the character, I think.
Had they made the bad guy not so predictably the bad guy.
If it would have been a mystery.
A little bit of a mystery. If you would have not known
who was pulling his strings behind the scenes, that might have helped.
And I was trying to decide, do I like this movie the way it is, or would I have liked it to go a little more down the serious route?
I think it could have helped if Simon Phoenix wasn't the Joker, if he had a little more reasoning behind his madness.
Now, these are things you think that would make the movie better.
Just a little bit. I'm not saying we have to have this intricate backstory about him, but if we could just had a little something, maybe that why he was just so crazy, anarchy, destruction, death. I think that might have helped make...
So flesh that character out a little more.
Just a little bit. Like, again, I'm not asking for, a huge, the way nowadays every movie, they at least try to have all their characters, explained to death. I'm not saying go overkill on it, but just a little more foundation to him.
So we kind of understand where he's coming from instead of him just being the Joker.
He is just because he is.
And then
I think if Stallone could have encountered his daughter, that might have added a little more weight to the fact that, everything is gone. Where, in Back to the Future, Marty can basically fix his parents' future, his future, because he has the ability to go back to his own time. Stallone is stuck there. This isn't a time travel thing. This is a Rip Van Winkle kind of story. So it's a one-way ticket. He's there now. So basically, you could have a little more something that really expresses how much, because, he had a little bit my wife, my daughter, but then it was kind of then brushed right over. I think if they would have did a little more with, maybe he goes to the gravesite, maybe he looks her up, did she remarry? Something what about, does he have a brother, a sister? Where are their kids? Anything that kind of
I would have been happy just seeing him hug his daughter, something like that. Just seeing something.
Yes.
There's his daughter. He gets reunited.
Yeah.
Okay, this movie's been out, not Demolition Man, something I'm about to bring up. This movie's been out for 6 months, so maybe slight spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Kong Skull Island. It's not, anything major I'm giving away here, but if you haven't seen it, go check it out. There were a couple scenes in there where I thought, man, it had, because I wish the movie was better, but I thought it was good enough. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of scenes of John C. Reilly's characters where I felt they were just this close to having that be such a great moment. Mm-hmm. Two scenes in particular. Actually, you know what? They kind of actually nailed it with the second scene, so I'll save that one for a second. But, there's a scene where he's talking about he gets stranded on this island for 30 years or whatever, mm-hmm. With what used to be his enemy.
Enemy mine, very much.
Yeah, well, this is, he was a World War II pilot. He was fighting in the South Pacific. There's a Japanese pilot there with him. Due to their unique circumstances on this island, instead of fighting each other, they decide to work together and become best friends.
Yes.
They don't really show any of that, which they could have. it's actually a movie I would like to see, is them. Like,
just them?
Yeah. Them living on this island and getting to know each other.
Oh, yeah.
Find out, I don't know if they spoke each other's languages or anything either. They probably would have had to work that out. But there's a scene where they're getting ready to leave the island, and John C. Reilly's, he's been here for such a long time. It's his home. He's getting a little bit sad. He's got the sword. His buddy has passed away at this point. And, they had made plans. They were going to get off together, and they were brothers, and he's about to cry. And then they just kind of cut it, and that's it. But, like, had they, like, really nailed that scene, like, driven it home just a little bit more, it could have been such a great moment.
He was actually, it's funny, John C. Reilly started off as a little more of a serious actor, then he got really into these really silly, goofy movies. I'm not trying to talk down on him, but he did.
Yeah. Well, he's got a pretty out there sense of humor, I think.
But this was a little more almost like going back to his roots in terms of the types of characters. I mean, he was still kind of goofy.
It was a more dramatic role for him, even though he was still being silly.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminded me of that a little bit, like when we never got to see Stallone with his daughter. At the end of Kong, you get to see John C. Reilly with his son and his wife. And, like I said, spoilers. But,
I was going to be ticked if they killed him off. I was like, I saw this movie, and it's like, it was all right. I grew up on Kong, so I knew they couldn't do the classic Kong story.
I don't feel anything bad about saying that, John C. Reilly makes it. Somebody's going to make it because they're going to make sequels, and this is tied into Godzilla and all that stuff. I won't say anything more about Who Lives and Dies or anything, but, like, he had that scene at the end where he meets his family. It's just touching in a way. Like, you almost want to cry.
Yeah.
It's a happy moment for him, get to see him. He gets to sit down and have a beer and a hot dog and watch the baseball game.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted. You know, he's been living basically on this hell island for so long. And just, even though Demolition Man is more on the silly side than even that movie, I think, in a lot of ways, it would have still been kind of a nice moment to see him reunite with his daughter.
Yeah.
Just I wish they took little touches like that. And like you said, fleshed out. I was trying to decide, would I have preferred this movie to go on a more serious route, or did I enjoy it being the campy, over the top on purpose, silly route?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of the way that it is. I think it's the way it needed to be made. I don't know if, had they gone serious with it, I don't know that it would have gotten the following that it has now.
Yeah, I think those types of movies are more modern style of doing it. I don't think that would have.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is way too serious nowadays.
Yeah.
I like that it's a comedy. I can see where, there's elements in there that could have made maybe a great sci-fi movie. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they could have done it maybe with that cast. Yeah, they didn't do anything with it's sci-fi in terms of the technology. They didn't do anything with robots, aliens, and no, not really,
and cyborgs. And,
what would have been great is if Otho turned out to be a robot. That's why nobody bothered
there
him.
was nothing like that kind of going on, Just basically the technology and the way society has changed, that's it.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much about it for this one. Yeah. We both gave it a C+.
C+.
Let us know how you felt about the movie. Is it, a childhood movie for you? I watched it a lot on TV when I was a kid.
I saw it when I would guess it was 94 or 5 when I first saw it. So
yeah. It's one of those movies where they played it a lot on TV, and they didn't have to really edit it that much.
Yeah, I mean, some of the language, obviously.
The language, but I mean, that's easy.
The violence wasn't overly.
I think there were 2 spots where there's very brief nudity that they could cut out, and it would barely even dent the time of the movie. So, other than that, I felt like I pretty much saw the whole movie on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Sylvester Stallone, he had gone through Rambo and, a few other things. You mentioned Cobra and Rocky. He had been doing a lot of serious roles, and, he's not a bad actor. I don't think he has a huge range. But, now into the 90s, he starts doing things like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and, some sillier stuff. And, out of his sillier stuff, this one is good.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it. If you liked the, what's the name of those new movies he's in? Expendable movies, then you'll probably love this.
Yeah.
It's just a silly action movie that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, eventually I'd like to do his Judge Dredd, which I know most people are pretty harsh on, but at some point I think we should cover that one too.
I'm open to it. I actually haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. I think it's currently on Netflix.
Okay, well that makes it easy then.
Yeah. Do you want to tell anyone how to contact us if they wish?
Yeah, if you'd like to contact us, just go outside and put your hands up and shout, Escape Podcast!
That might work, but depending on where you're located.
Well, that would help everybody learn about us. What are you doing? I'm talking about the Escape Podcast.
We're drifting out in space. I don't think we're going to be able to get that way.
Yeah, if you want to contact us, we have our Facebook, the Escape Podcast. You will see our artwork. It is a orange ship with explosion behind it out in space. Yep. So if you have any movies you want to request, let us know how we're doing. If you want a chance to win that dirty sock.
It's clean, I tell you. It's clean. It came out of the wash, you jerk.
If you want a chance to win that so-called clean sock, then, write us a little review. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Is that a breach? All breach?
Yeah, that's about it.
All
right.
Thank you, and until next time.
You got any eggs?
And I'm Josh. And I'm Josh. Hold on. And I'm Josh. Joyce, I could get it. Hold on. Don't hit that.